In the last decade, the US arms industry has delivered a mouth-watering amount of weaponry and military equipment to the European market. And in doing so, it has profited greatly and created more than 4 million jobs in the US, generating a vast amount of tax revenue to the American state. States like Texas and Florida are almost entirely dependent on these sectors. With Donald Trump now putting the world economy into troubled waters by throwing tariffs around like they're toys, he's putting it all at risk. Over the past 3 months, we've taken a deep dive into Europe's defense landscape, demonstrating that there are credible, often superior, European-made alternatives to nearly every major system currently being purchased by European NATO members. In this episode, the final installment of this series before we move on to current and future capability within Europe, we're tying it all together. After many of you requested a comprehensive overview, we'll now step back and look at the full picture. Perhaps the biggest ticket item purchased by European NATO allies from the US defense industry over the past decade has been the F-35. As we covered in our episode on the uncertainty of operating this aircraft due to software and spare parts tying users to the US, it is currently ordered and operated by a whole host of European nations. While many of them have been delivered, a good part of the ordered planes have yet to arrive. More recently, both Canada and Portugal have completely changed their mind on how many F-35s they want, or if any at all. Portugal is likely to go for the Rafale, and Canada is quietly looking to Sweden for a stopgap until the 6th-generation fighters come onto the scene. Personally, I would not be surprised if more nations follow Canada and Portugal's example and cut down on their orders or slash them completely. But it remains to be seen if Dassault, Saab and Airbus can keep up with the potential demand. Europe has 3 credible options for the F-35. The Rafale and the Gripen are likely the ones which has come closest to the F-35 in terms of capabilities, and by looking at maintenance costs, we can see that all 3 European counterparts are a heck of a lot cheaper per flight hour than the F-35, which has been attested to cost at least $40,000 per flight hour in several US Senate hearings, several times more expensive than all 3 European fighter jets. Keeping with air assets, 2 more item categories are high on the US export list: helicopters and heavy airlift capabilities. European nations have over the last years put several billion euros into both Black Hawks and Seahawks. Currently, there are 9 future and present operators of the Black Hawk in Europe, and while these figures may not seem that large, the Black Hawk is known for requiring large amounts of money to keep operational, as parts are only available from Sikorsky, who is now owned by Lockheed Martin. The story is similar for the Seahawk. 5 nations operate it, and it has earned the US over $4 billion in sale fees alone, and again that is before parts, upgrades and munitions. As with most of the items we'll cover in this video, both the Black Hawk and Seahawk have very credible European alternatives. I won't go into the same depth as the specific video on each subject which you can find in the description and comments, but for the Seahawk, the future Lynx and Merlin are likely the most successful competitor variants, while for the Black Hawk the Super Puma and AW149 is its largest competitors. The next large export item of the American defense industry in the helicopter space is the Apache attack helicopter. The United Kingdom has undertaken a substantial upgrade of its Apache fleet. Originally operating 67 Apache Longbows, the UK has decided to upgrade 50 of these to the newer E model. The upgrade program is estimated to cost approximately £420 million, translating to around $8.4 million per helicopter. Greece operates a significant fleet of Apaches, consisting of 20A models and 28D models, totaling 48 helicopters. The cost of these helicopters, especially the newer D models, is estimated to be between $35 million to $40 million each, depending on their configurations and included systems. So, what sort of attack helicopters does Europe bring to the table which can compete with the Apache? Needless to say, Boeing isn't just struggling in civil aviation when it comes to, among others, Airbus. It is also the case for its Apaches versus Airbus's attack helicopters. You can't really get far without mentioning the still popular Eurocopter Tiger, a medium-lift attack helicopter, which is operational in the French, German and Spanish armies. While it is not the newest kid on the block, it is still produced and delivered, albeit under the now dominant Airbus consortium, which is branching out its operations right across Europe. As with the Lynx, this platform is used both in naval and land attack variants, and it has been operational in most conflict zones where NATO have taken part since the airframe's inception. Leonardo is turning into a bit of a production powerhouse when it comes to attack helicopters. Their T-129 collaboration with Turkey is getting to a point of being exported to the Philippines, Nigeria and Turkey, and it's likely one of the most underrated attack helicopters in the world. It is based on the old Mangusta helicopter, which still serves in the Italian army. For a look at something which appears like it is going to be a very promising future attack helicopter, the Leonardo Fenice is showing excellent signs of something which could turn into a stalwart Apache and Tiger replacement in Europe. It is currently undergoing trials in the Italian army and will likely soon see other nations ordering this variant. Last but not least, Airbus's completely new H-145, likely the helicopter which will replace many of the Tigers currently operating in Europe. Many nations are currently taking their first deliveries of this extremely advanced lighter attack helicopter, including Germany. While the Tiger is an overwhelming aircraft, the H-145 is a stealthier frame equipped with smart weapons like missiles and advanced electronic warfare apparatus. When it comes to heavy airlift aviation, Europe is a big user of American aircraft. All in all, over 5 billion more has been used to acquire and service European Globemasters and Hercules transports, with the UK operating the Globemaster and a wide range of other nations operating the Hercules and Super Hercules. One of Europe's largest success stories after a bit of a patchy start to its life is the M400A, or Airbus Atlas. It is becoming the most widely adopted European transport aircraft and is cheaper per tonnage carried than most American variants. It is currently operated by many nations that have replaced their Super Hercules with the Atlas. When it comes to tanks, American exports have not really been as successful, though Poland, Romania, and Ukraine all operate or have ordered the Abrams. The issue for many European nations seems to be that native European tanks generally require a lot less fuel, are faster, and generally make up a lot of the parts for the Abrams anyway, such as the cannon. The big problem for Europe in the tank department is production capacity, though as we speak German and French auto plants are being refitted to also make tanks and IFVs. For infantry fighting vehicles the trend is similar, only Croatia and Ukraine operate the Bradley, and judging by the comparative destruction rates in Ukraine, the Bradley is not at all better than European variants such as the much-praised CV-90, Lynx, Puma, Borsuk or VBCI. As a testament to European capability in the IFV department, the next US IFV will likely be a European design either based on the Lynx or Ajax. Though the Ajax is made by American General Dynamics, the design originates in the artillery department. Two of America's biggest export items to Europe has been the M109 and HIMARS. The HIMARS in particular is likely the biggest overall export success behind the F-35, and this is an area where Europe is lagging behind. Rheinmetall's HIMARS and South Korean Chunmoo are likely the most credible alternatives. The issue is that the longest-range ballistic missiles fired by the HIMARS are generally also made in the US, which makes the job for both South Korean and European developers large in the years to come, though I would not put it outside of the scope of MBDA, Kongsberg and Rheinmetall to work together on this. While the US has successfully supplied the M109 self-propelled gun to European countries like Austria, Latvia, Portugal, and Spain, it's evident that American industry is starting to lag behind in the self-propelled gun sector. European NATO nations are now producing superior SPGs. A prime example is the Polish Crab SPG, which played a pivotal role in Ukraine's early efforts in the conflict against Russia. Despite not being as mobile as the Archer or Caesar systems, the Crab's track design enables operation in challenging weather conditions where wheeled systems might falter. Priced at approximately $4 million per unit, the Crab is costlier than the M109 Paladin, which is offered at an export price of about $2 million. However, Poland anticipates a reduction in costs as production facilities and processes become more streamlined. You can't really get far in a discussion on European artillery without mentioning the Swedish Archer and French Caesar. These two guns have achieved almost legendary status in Ukraine with their flexibility, rate of fire, and excellent counter-battery operations alongside the Crab. The producers of each system, Hägglunds and Nexter Systems, seem to have an ongoing fight about which systems can fire off an entire magazine before relocating, with the most recent Archer being able to set up, fire 20 rounds, and be on the move in 2.5 minutes, meaning that most of its shots won't land before the vehicle has moved, while the newest Caesar can brag about an almost identical firing rate. Both systems are lightweight enough that they can be transported via air with few issues, and due to the reloading mechanisms being fairly autonomous, the amount of staff required to man them are about half that of a traditional armored SPG. Last but not least, Germany produces several artillery pieces that can go toe-to-toe with any other artillery piece in the world. Even though PZH 2000 is no longer the big new thing, it is still produced by KNDS and known as one of the most reliable systems out there. From about 2010 to 2020, it broke one distance firing record after another, though the war in Ukraine has driven the price of this system up to about $18 million per unit, meaning that you can get almost 5 Crabs for the price of one of these systems. Germany's most recent artillery progression is the RCH 155, made by the people behind the PZH 2000, which has an autonomous turret and is mounted on top a Boxer chassis. Ukraine recently received their first batch of this SPG, and so far we have heard very little about it, but with Germany's scary heritage of making awesome military gear, I'd say that it'll likely perform well. The price is still high, something KNDS will likely need to look at. This system is perfect for smaller nations with less artillerymen, as you really only need a driver to be present in the vehicle while it is operating, and you also don't have to risk as many soldiers' lives with counter-battery fire. I suspect that autonomous artillery is the future of NATO, and that other nations will soon come up with their own variants. The coolest part about the RCH is that it can fire on the move, which in my book makes this the most hard-to-hit artillery system currently in operation. When it comes to armored personnel carriers, the American M113 has been a mainstay of many European armed forces for close to 5 decades. While this system is old and too unprotected, it still serves in many nations. In the APC department, newer American systems like the Striker have not really managed to break into the European market due to the quite frankly excellent heritage of European systems. Judging by the war in Ukraine, one European armored personnel carrier stands out, the Polish-Finnish Rosomak APC. The Poles have taken the very capable Finnish Patriot APC and made their own localized variant, which has been donated to Ukraine in large numbers. Of the 200 or so delivered vehicles to Ukraine, Oryx, who geotags and confirms equipment losses, have only managed to locate 6 destroyed Rosomaks, while one has been damaged and repaired. Compared to the US Striker, where Ukraine has been confirmed to have lost somewhere between 35 to 40, this means that the Rosomak is roughly 3 times as durable. Now, the comments will probably be full of angry Americans saying that the Striker is often used in the most hot areas of the front, but the Rosomak is placed with the infamous 21st, 57th and 44th Brigades. The 21st Brigade was as deeply involved in the push into Kursk as the Striker Brigades, so this isn't really an argument. At the risk of getting banished from Finland due to bragging about Finnish gear, I'm going to go out on a limb and put the equally successful Patria AMV, which the Rosomak APC is based on, in second place here. Finland has been very successful with their long heritage of APCs ever since its trusty Sisu APC made its debut in the middle of the Cold War. Finland has donated an unknown quantity of this vehicle series to Ukraine, but my old colleagues in the Finnish army confirm that they've delivered several batches of 30 vehicles to Ukraine. So far, only 5 have been destroyed, and 5 have been damaged or abandoned. It is deployed with the equally impressive 36th Marine Brigade, who have been involved in Kursk and used the Sisu APC series to flank the Russian garrison in Vovchansk in 2024. The Patria and Sisu family has been widely exported and is currently in operation across 12 different nations, including a wide use in various UN-led peace missions. France also has a very capable APC named, pardon my French, Véhicule de l'Avant Blindé, or VAB for short, which has also been donated in large numbers to Ukraine. Some sources in France say that at least 250 have been delivered. It has been lost to a somewhat higher degree than its Polish and Finnish counterparts, but it is worth noting that France has only sent older variants to Ukraine. The newest VAB is called Griffin and likely offers similar qualities to its biggest competitors. Ideally, France would send some of the Griffin to Ukraine for combat testing. This way, they'd get a baseline for how it fares against FPV drones and the dangers of modern combat. It is currently operated by at least 18 different nations, most of them being in Africa. Air defense is likely the item which the US has sold the most of to Europe, after HIMARS and F-35s in the last 5 or so years, with the Patriot system being sold to Sweden, Germany, Greece, Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Spain, and Switzerland. In 2023 alone, a German-led coalition bought a package of missiles for these systems worth $5.5 billion, before you even consider the billions of dollars that these nations bought their launchers for. The big issue for Europe is that they have only one credible long-range alternative to the Patriot, though there are promising projects taking place within the air defense space, which will likely become a credible long-range competitor within a few short years. Likely the European system which has seen the biggest success, as of late, is the Norwegian-made NASAMS. Kongsberg, who develops this system, is half owned by the Norwegian state, and therefore it is a lot less affected by the whims of the market. NASAMS is the system which the US has deployed around the White House, and it has sold to a total of 12 current operators, as well as 3 future projects currently in the delivery phase. Kongsberg is working on a long-range variant that should increase its range from the medium space of 35 kilometers to well into the range of 50 to 70 kilometers. Second on the list, I'm going to put the French-Italian SAMP-T, likely the only European product who can compete on par with the Patriot. While the NASAMS operates American and Norwegian-made missiles, SAMP-T uses the purely made European Aster missiles in its operation. The new generation system currently being produced has a strike range of 150 kilometers and a detection range of 350 kilometers. Italy and France have each delivered at least one system to Ukraine, and reports coming back from Ukraine indicate that it works really well against anything that Russia throws at Ukraine, ballistic missiles included. Last in the European air defense space will have to be the German-made IRIS-T. As with the NASAMS, this system operates in the medium space, averaging from around 25 kilometers to the newest longer-range 80 kilometers variant. While these ranges aren't massive, it has proven wildly successful at intercepting missiles in Ukraine. The missiles for this system is made in Sweden and Germany, and again relies almost exclusively on European parts. With the European air defense variants, the price varies based on range. The Iris, with the shortest range, is the cheapest, while the SAMP-T is half the price for a slightly longer range engagement zone compared to the Patriot. With this in mind, one has to question why so many European nations have gone for the US system, besides production capacity. With Trump acting like he is, there is absolutely no reason why European nations should pour billions into American R&D and air defense, when we make similar, cheaper capability ourselves. Moving on to missiles, Europe produces a lot of great options. Sweden and Norway are 2 powerhouses in medium-range missile manufacture, with Sweden's RBS series offering up to 350 kilometers range, while Norway's Joint Strike and Naval Strike variants offers 275 kilometer sea-skimming capability. The French, British, and Italians make the Storm Shadow missiles. However, these have several American components in them. The noise coming from France and Britain is that when America held back their deployment to Ukraine, it forced the producers to find credible Asian or European alternatives to these components, and that the missiles should become independent sometime during 2025. It has a range of 250 to 400 kilometers, but MDBA expects that this range is set to increase in this year. Lastly, The longest-range European variant of non-nuclear missile is the German Taurus. It reaches 500 kilometers, and Germany currently possesses a vast stockpile. Sadly, Germany's Olaf Scholz did not want to send them to Ukraine, and Germany have likely lost a lot of market credibility by holding them back. Sweden, who co-produces this missile with Germany, has reportedly pushed Germany hard to deliver it, and while Scholz has held back, it appears that the new chancellor is ready to send them. The war in Ukraine has proven to Europe that we need to focus on making our own independent missiles, and due to the issues surrounding the US holding back the Storm Shadow from deployment in Ukraine, France, Italy, Germany, Poland, Norway and Britain have come together to develop a new ground-based missile with a range of 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers. The program will be called ELSA, and it is this kind of attitude we need to see more of in Europe moving forward. Let's look at Europe's imports of naval equipment for the last 10 or so years. The fact of the matter is that Europe is fairly self-reliant in the naval department, and while the US does deliver some naval technology to Europe, most of it is weapon systems and auxiliary assets like helicopters. The main reason for this is that American naval assets are generally far too expensive and not suitable for European needs. The US once exported more than 30% of all ships and submarines in the world, while it is now languishing somewhere around 3 to 4%. Notable naval exports from the US include Seahawks and weapon systems like the Sea Sparrow and Phalanx. And while these systems add up to a fair chunk of cash, Europe's dependence on American weaponry in their navies is nowhere near as heavy as with their air forces and land armies. Most European navies are very dependent on the American-made vertical launch system. While the French and British have developed their own variant called Silver, the VLS is still deployed to much of Europe's fleet. When only looking at the American-made VLS, which is also made on license by BAE in Britain, the value to the US is somewhere around 3 billion euros and up. And while that is a lot of money, it appears that the UK, Italy and France have started thinking more wisely about the future of vertical launch by making their own very credible alternative in the Silver. Third on the US export list for naval assets to Europe is the Sea Sparrow anti-air system. Overall, 12 European navies have adopted the system, and costs are estimated to somewhere around 1 to 2 billion euros without the missiles. Firstly, likely the most widely adopted European-made naval anti-air missile system is the Principal Anti-Air Missile System, or PAAMS for short, named Sea Viper in the UK. It's a joint French, Italian and British variant, developed by Eurosam and UCAMS, and fires the very capable Aster missiles, made in Britain, Italy and France. The Aster 30 has a range of 500 kilometers against low-flying targets, while the Aster 15 covers the short-range 30 to 60 kilometer area. Secondly, the French, Brits and Italians have also made what many naval enthusiasts simply call the mushroom farm, or Sea Scepter system. Utilizing the common anti-air modular missile, this system offers a versatile and much quicker firing solution than the aforementioned Sea Viper. The Sea Scepter has a range of approximately 25 kilometers and is capable of engaging multiple targets simultaneously, thanks to its active radar homing seeker and high-speed response capabilities. Deployed on a variety of ships from frigates to aircraft carriers, the Sea Scepter's vertical launch system allows for 360-degree coverage and rapid reaction times, enhancing fleet protection without the need for extensive modifications to the host ship. Not only is it effective, but it is also cost-efficient, providing significant operational flexibility and formidable defense capabilities to naval fleets around the world. Sweden recently went for this system on their corvettes, and it will also be deployed to most new ships made for the Italian, British and French navies. Another area where a lot of European armed forces use American hardware is in drone surveillance. Models like the RQ Puma or Scan Eagle are very common within European defense. However, this is likely due to end very shortly. European innovation within this scene is getting to a point of overtaking American industry, and there are an enormous amount of choice in the European marketplace. Drone production has one important asset which many other defense equipment categories lack: low initial cost. This fact means that there's credible and often better alternatives to effective drones delivered from the large companies around Europe. Take this Slovenian-made Sea Astral drone in example. Our contacts in the Ukrainian armed forces always bring up this drone when we discuss this aspect of warfare with them, mainly because of its extreme endurance, low initial cost and loitering capability. It was secretly delivered to Ukraine via many European allies early in the war and has served Ukraine incredibly well since then. The same can be said about the extremely capable Heidrun drone from Danish firm Skywatch. It is often part of the aid packages from Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark and other nations, and once again it is a platform which the Ukrainian army has taken to. The makers of Heidrun is far ahead of many others when it comes to electronic warfare resistance, and it can stay in the air for over 3 hours. Third on my list will have to be Tekever's vast array of drones. This joint British and Portuguese company has developed fixed-wing drones that can stay airborne for 30 hours, and it is one of the main suppliers to the British Army. Judging by statements from the British Ministry of Defence, several variants of their drones are already operating in Ukraine. I could potentially go on for an hour and list great European variants for ISR drones. There's companies making good alternatives in almost every nation. But as always, we like to talk about combat-proven platforms here. Last but not least, before I move on to Ukraine's immensely successful variants, I'm going to mention a great Dutch variant, which has also been delivered in large quantities to Ukraine via military aid from the Netherlands. Both the Delta Quad Evo and Pro have seen extensive use and have proven reliable, especially for their detailed imaging, and have added to the massive stockpile in the Ukrainian armed forces. Now, I could probably speak for hours on FPV and attack drones, but for the scope of this video, which compares what Europe buys from the US, these categories are almost not present. Europe doesn't buy any loitering or attack drones of great quantity from the US, so if you're interested in that, you can find the specialty episode on drones on our channel. I'll link to it in the right corner. Last but not least, let's quickly review the satellite and space situation in Europe. One of the big gaps that Ukraine has experienced is the kind of back and forth over internet access via Starlink, which appears to be used as a blackmail tool almost weekly by Elon Musk or the Trump admin. It is estimated that Starlink has over 450,000 subscribers in NATO-allied European countries alone, and a further 150,000 users in Ukraine. This accounts for anything from 15 to 20% of Starlink's customer base, and if you remove government contracts from these figures, it is close to 50% of their civilian customers. European companies currently have somewhere along the lines of 700 communications satellites in orbit. However, with the addition of the IRIS-2 program and a future Project Bromo deployment, this number will likely exceed 1,400. What I'd ideally like to see is more cooperation. Rather than heavyweights like Airbus, Thales and Leonardo going their own way, they should be offered to be included in the pan-European IRIS-2 program. Both parties would prosper from the added financial weight on the EU side, while IRIS-2 could greatly speed up if it received the production capacity and know-how of the 3 companies mentioned. Europe's space launch capability represents a crucial component of its broader strategic autonomy and scientific advancement. The continent's pursuit of independent access to space is facilitated through a cooperative model that pools resources, technology, and expertise from several member states within the European Space Agency and individual national programs. The primary hub of European launch activities is the Guyana Space Center in French Guiana, a facility best known for launching the Ariane series of rockets. These rockets, particularly the Ariane 5, have been instrumental in deploying commercial, scientific, and exploration missions to orbit and beyond, cementing Europe's role in the global space market. Now, on to imaging technology. One of the big issues that Ukraine has had to deal with in regards to depending on American satellites for their intelligence is, as we saw with Maxar just a few weeks ago, where American politicians essentially denied Maxar sharing images with Ukraine. This sort of unreliability is something Europe as a continent cannot depend on, which is why it is great to see that we've also got great companies and alternatives within this sector. Airbus stands as one of the largest entities in the field of satellite-based geospatial mapping. The recent geopolitical events involving Ukraine highlighted the critical role of satellite intelligence. When US intelligence support was used as blackmail, it inadvertently provided an opportunity for European nations such as France, Germany, and Great Britain to demonstrate the capabilities of Airbus advanced geospatial mapping systems to Ukraine. These events have allowed Ukraine to increasingly rely on Airbus for its superior satellite imagery solutions. Airbus boasts an impressive fleet of Earth observation satellites that excel particularly in multi-spectrum mapping, where they are reportedly superior to competitors like Maxar. This capability is crucial as it provides more detailed and versatile data, enhancing applications in military planning due to being able to look for, in example, radar radiation or minute heat signatures. The company's satellites are equipped with cutting-edge technology capable of capturing high-resolution images across various spectral bands, which not only provides standard visual imagery, but also gathers data from infrared and other parts of the spectrum, which in recent days has proven extremely deadly for a lot of radars in Crimea, as Ukraine's boat-launched FPV drones have taken apart air defenses night after night. Secondly, and yes, I know that this is a Finnish company and Finns don't like to brag about ourselves, ICEYE has proven to be a very useful provider of imagery to Ukraine. They are known for their cutting-edge synthetic aperture radar technology, which has played a significant role in the Ukraine war by providing crucial satellite imagery and data to support military and humanitarian efforts. Their SAR satellites can capture high-resolution images, regardless of weather conditions or time of day, making them exceptionally valuable for continuous monitoring and intelligence gathering, when, in example, Maxar would be unable to deliver due to cloud cover. Throughout the conflict, ICEYE has supplied up-to-date imagery that has been pivotal for tracking troop movements, assessing damage, and planning humanitarian aid operations. The ability of ICEYE's satellites to penetrate cloud cover and operate effectively night and day has provided Ukrainian forces with a persistent surveillance capability that is less affected by the environmental limitations that hinder optical satellites. Before I call it quits and go to our typical Finnish forest cabin for the weekend, I would just like to repeat one thing. While some of these European systems might be more expensive than their non-European competitors, it is important to remember that if Europe invests in Europe, the whole production chain profits. Not only does it bring back some of the jobs that used to be here until we gave it all up for American military products, but it also helps European research and development. Money moved outside of Europe is essentially lost, both for tax and experience to our own production. As always, I hope you have a good weekend, and if you've made it this far, I'd be honored if you subscribe to our channel. Stay safe, folks.